In this video, we are going to talk about, is lane splitting on a motorcycle legal? So before starting this video, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for the future updates. What is lane splitting for motorcycles? Lane splitting for motorcycles refers to bikes which weave between traffic that's moving the same direction as they are. Technically, lane splitting is the term for riders who are moving while the traffic around them is also moving. When traffic is at a standstill, but motorcycles keep moving, that is a different practice called filtering. In most accounts of lane splitting experiences, people tend to combine splitting and filtering into a single category. In truth, they are similar. If traffic stops while you're navigating slowly through it, it doesn't make much sense to stop and weave back into a lane. So you may switch between splitting and filtering, depending on driver behavior and road conditions. But whether you're in front of or behind a vehicle that's not paying attention, it's more dangerous to stay in the flow of much larger traffic than it is to branch out ahead, hence the splitting in the first place. Lane sharing is an entirely different beast, too. Lane sharing between motorcycles is a less disputed adventure. At the same time, its benefits aren't clearly discussed anywhere, except in terms of keeping riders together throughout their ride. Multiple motorcycles sharing a lane, not riding single file, is lane sharing, while lane sharing with a vehicle is not exactly possible nor recommended. When motorcycles lane split, they aren't in one vehicle's lane or another. They ride the line between the two lanes, taking up as little space as possible and giving other vehicles their breathing room. Of course, just because motorcyclists take advantage of lane splitting, it doesn't mean other drivers appreciate the practice. Legality is another element of lane splitting, and one that's not always clear-cut. Laws around lane splitting. Laws are somewhat divided about motorcycle lane splitting, and specifics vary based on the state. In California, for example, their website states, California law does not allow or prohibit motorcycles from passing other vehicles proceeding in the same direction within the same lane. In the past, California attempted to pass legislation on the topic, but court action blocked them from finalizing anything. Few court cases center on lane splitting issues, so it seems the subject hasn't taken priority for lawmakers. However, California isn't the only state to take a passive stance on the subject. 12 other states, plus Washington, D.C. And since so few court cases have disputed the issue one way or another, it's hard to say how any single law enforcement officer might respond to seeing a motorcyclist lane split. Keeping in mind the differences among the states, you should check your local laws for more information before deciding for or against lane splitting on your next ride. Enhances motorcycle safety. Other countries either endorse or fail to comment on the practice, which tells us that there isn't a global argument over lane splitting. It's an everyday thing for countries which have more two-wheeled vehicles than they do four-wheeled ones. Why do motorcycles lane split? As the American Management Association notes, one study suggests lane splitting keeps motorcycle riders safer because it allows them to move between vehicles and traffic, giving them an escape route where there is congestion. Because many accidents involve motorists who don't see motorcyclists or their bikes, keeping moving in slow-moving traffic is usually a smart idea for the riders. Safety should be every rider's top priority, and lane splitting helps achieve the goal of staying safe, according to research on the topic. Plus, you're more visible when you're in front of traffic rather than behind it. But what other reasons do motorcyclists have for lane splitting? Proponents of lane splitting note that it keeps traffic flowing, partly because cars and trucks can then take up the space a motorcyclist leaves behind. While larger vehicles are stuck lined up in lanes, motorcycles can jump out of line and close gaps, which are both unsafe for them and inconvenient for other drivers. Plus, if you've ever been on a bike in stop-and-go traffic, you know how frustrating it is to shift in and out of the right gear constantly, balance while moving supremely slow, and put your foot down to keep yourself upright when you finally do stop. Riding a motorcycle isn't as straightforward as operating a larger motor vehicle, especially when you consider the weight of your bike and how tough it is to hold it upright when it's not moving. Unless you are responsible for balancing the bike even as you crawl along in traffic, and that can sap the energy right out of you. Overall, it's easier to keep moving in traffic when the alternative is rough on your body and your bike. Maneuvering between vehicles also makes a motorcycle rider's trip even faster, so saving time during your commute is another perk. But in comparison with the potential environmental effects, shaving a few minutes off the drive is nothing. Benefits of lane splitting. Many riders choose a motorcycle because of the innate convenience and agility, not to mention great gas mileage, and with remaining consistent over time with the right care and maintenance. A bike is an exceptional investment for most riders, even if you don't choose for cleaner emissions and lower fuel costs. But the benefits don't stop at the low costs and sheer enjoyment of feeling the wind on your face. Lane splitting is another of the benefits of motorcycle riding that car drivers just can't enjoy. While some motorcycles are arguably just as bad for the environment as cars are, one of the benefits of lane splitting is cutting down on time cars sit in traffic jams. Research has shown that for each motorcycle that splits lanes, they're helping to the cars around them are polluting the air with dangerous emissions. That's right, lane splitting helps you get where you're going more safely and helps save the environment too. You may not have been thinking of Mother Earth when shopping for a motorcycle, but the perks of riding versus driving are non-negotiable. Final thoughts. Plenty of people have opinions about lane splitting, but the research on the benefits of the practice speak for themselves. And while the legality of lane splitting in traffic isn't clear, depending on where you live, it has the potential to improve your overall riding experience and other drivers' experiences too. Being stuck in traffic is never fun, but lane splitting can help cut down on emissions of every car on the road, get motorcyclists out of harm's way, and keep freeways from getting congested. It's a win-win if you're not getting ticketed for it in a state that doesn't approve. How does lane splitting affect your accident claim? If you are making a motorcycle or bike accident claim, lane splitting could affect your right to recover compensation. This is true whether you were on the motorcycle or bike, or in another vehicle involved in a collision. If you are involved in a motor vehicle accident, you can pursue a claim and recover compensation for losses from other drivers who played a role in causing the crash. It's important to note, though, that if a rider is engaged in illegal lane splitting, this doesn't just give other drivers a right to disregard safety expectations. If a driver of another vehicle should have seen the motorcyclist or bicyclist, but was distracted or speeding and failed to pay attention, and ran the rider over as a result, that unsafe driver could still be partly to blame for the accident. Comparative negligence versus contributory negligence in lane splitting claims. A rider who is lane splitting is almost always considered partly at fault for any crash that occurs when engaged in this illegal and often unsafe practice. But whether this partial responsibility for the accident makes obtaining car accident compensation impossible depends on state rules. In a minority of states, contributory negligence rules apply. This means a motorist who is even partly to blame for their own injuries cannot make a claim to recover damages. In most cases, however, comparative fault rules apply. Under these rules, a motorist who is partly at fault for a collision can still recover partial compensation from other drivers who are to blame. Some states apply pure comparative fault rules and always allow this, while others permit a victim to make a claim only if the victim is less than 50% or less than 51% responsible for the accident. If a motorcyclist or bicyclist is in a comparative fault state and lane splitting was partly the cause of an accident, but the other driver's actions were also a partial cause, the rider could pursue a claim for some compensation. Under comparative fault rules, damages are reduced based on the percentage of fault attributed to the victim. A motorcyclist or bike rider who sustained $100,000 in damages who was 40% at fault for the accident due to lane splitting could still recover $100,000 from the other driver who was also to blame. With lane splitting accidents. Lane splitting accidents can be complicated due to the different laws on this practice in different locations, and due to the fact it is illegal in many parts of the country. If you were hurt in an accident and lane splitting is involved, you should contact an experienced accident lawyer as soon as possible. Your attorney will help you understand your rights and assist in getting compensation available to you based on the facts of your claim. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from me again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go. Thanks for watching.